Hey, what's up YouTube? Down on the Smartphone Guy coming back at you with another video, and tonight we're going to take a look at my first impressions of a phone that probably at this point doesn't really need much introduction. It's been widely available for a lot of people. A lot of YouTubers already had theirs. So this is the T-Mobile variant. This is the retail version, obviously, of the phone. I just got mine yesterday, so this is going to be a 24-hour first impressions video of the G6. So one of the things that definitely is a selling point for the G6 is obviously this build quality. So we're going to go ahead and start there. So I just think that this is an absolutely beautiful device. So in terms of feel in the hand, that Gorilla Glass 5 on the back just feels excellent. You know, the black version, if you watch some videos on that or see some, that it is a fingerprint magnet, but you can see that this version, this is the Platinum Ice, doesn't have as bad of a fingerprint issue. Like, you know, my hands are pretty greasy, and you don't really see a whole lot of fingerprints on there. But of course, you can slap a case on there and you probably won't notice it anyways. We do have, in terms of the cameras, we got the dual 13 megapixel camera on the back, got the fingerprint sensor, which doubles as the power button, and that works very well, so we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We do have a headphone jack available. Got the volume rockers over on the side. Up on this side, we have micro SD expansion as well as our SIM card over here, SIM tray. And as far as the SD card goes, there's 32 gigs of onboard storage on this device and 4 gigs of RAM, something worth mentioning. But also, that storage can be used kind of, sort of, when we talk about software. I'll go into that a little bit more. But yeah, so you can kind of use it as internal storage, you kind of can't. So definitely a huge selling point for this phone, obviously, though, is the display. We have a 2K display that nearly takes up the entire front of the phone. So very small bezels, just got that little LG logo at the top, 8 megapixel camera up at the top, at the bottom, the LG logo on the bottom, the 8 megapixel camera up top, and then some sensors and our speaker up in the top as well. So overall, just the build quality is beautiful. That is easily, for me, one of the biggest selling points of this phone. Obviously, waterproofing. It's IP68 waterproof as well, so you can literally just drop this right in the water, not have to worry about it, because yeah, it can go underwater with no problem. You can watch plenty of videos out there. I paid full retail price for it, so I'm not gonna take the risk and drop mine in any kind of water at the moment, so maybe I will get a little bit more brave as we get into this a little bit more. But with that being said, let's talk next about the performance of the phone. So this is running the Snapdragon 821 processor, a processor that's maybe, you know, last year's processor, but still a very good one. And it is quite snappy, you know, in terms of RAM management. Again, 4 gigs of RAM. So if we go in here and maybe jump into the Geekbench scores, actually that's probably a good place to go. So there are Geekbench scores, so single core score pretty high, a 1534, and a multi-core score of 3548. So not the highest multi-core score, but in terms of single core, definitely kind of a higher score there. So in terms of gaming, you're not going to have any issues with gaming. The only time I've ever had any issues so far with stuttering in my first 24 hours was when it was trying to load all the apps, and I was trying to do some social networking at the same time. It did stutter just a little bit, but overall performance has been quite snappy. And I think, you know, with it being the newer flagship, you're not going to have any issues with any kind of performance. Now, it is LG, and there is some pretty heavy software add-ons to Android Nougat, and so let's go ahead and jump into that next. So this is the way the settings will look when you first get it out of the box. I haven't really messed a whole lot with the settings. Up here you can go here and change it to list view, which is kind of the way I prefer it, so I'm going to look at it that way if you don't mind. So we have our network settings first, then we have some device settings. There are some really nice tweaks within the LG software, so that's something I'm gonna hit up on a later video where I do some tips and tricks of the LG G6 software. So there are some really nice software things that they've put in here to make it a little easier to use. Like, for instance, I'll just kind of throw this one out here. It's kind of hard sometimes to pull down that notification shade because that is such a long display. So one trick that they have is that you can put that notifications tab down here in your shortcut keys, and you can pull it down that way as well. So that's just one quick one, but there are plenty of software tricks that they have built into the software, into Android 7.0, and they make it a little bit easier to use. In some cases, they seem kind of useless. In other cases, they seem very useful. So in terms of bloatware, of course, we got just a few LG pieces of bloat. So we got that LG Health, we got the LG Friends Manager, we have that LG Smart World, and then, you know, because of the T-Mobile variant, we do have some T-Mobile bloatware. But other than that, everything else that's on here is pretty much stuff that I've put on there. I will no doubt be running Nova Launcher on this device. I'm not a huge fan of the stock. Well, yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of LG's stock launcher, so I will be putting Nova Launcher on here after I do my full review. So with that being said, let's jump into the cameras. So the cameras obviously are a huge selling point. So the G5 had some good cameras. The V20, which I never had, I did have the G5. But we have the option here for our narrow aperture and our wider aperture. So if we want to take some wide angle pictures here, we can go ahead and select that option right there. And we can get a much wider frame for our photos. And we do have a ton of different modes here. So we can do panorama, 360, food, some pop-out, snap, slow-mo, which I like, and time-lapse. Those are two of my favorite. I just love those. And a lot of cameras are offering that now. But it does shoot 4K video, 13 megapixels as well for both the wide angle and the narrow aperture. So that's I think f1.8 if I remember. I better check that, but you guys can check me if I'm wrong. Go ahead and tell me if I'm wrong down in the comment section. I'm sure you will anyways. So in terms of video resolution, again, we can shoot in Ultra HD at 16:9 ratio. In terms of the photo size, again, 13 megapixels, so that's in a 4:3 ratio. Whew, get that into focus. Let's see if we can get it. Oh, bumpy cam. And, oops, wrong one. Jeez Louise. Getting the wrong camera into focus here. Okay, so yeah, so there's just a ton of options here built into the camera, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is what the camera quality looks like so far. And so far, I would say that camera quality is quite good. So this is just a really close-up picture, and notice the bokeh effect here of just a coffee cup, McCafe coffee cup, and really nice bokeh effect over there. So really clean here, and then that nice bokeh effect there. You don't need to see that. So just some pictures of my Moto G5 Plus that just look absolutely brilliant on this camera. So let me just zoom way in here. Notice that there's hardly any pixelation of the picture I took, and see how far away that phone was. You can zoom right in, and almost no pixelation. That's just phenomenal. That's a beautiful picture. So the fact that you can zoom in so far and barely see pixels is pretty awesome. So that says a lot about the camera quality on this phone. So that's with that 13 megapixel narrow aperture. So just, you know, some more pictures. Now the area that I would say is definitely weak would be in terms of, here it is. So there's the front facing camera. I mean, that's kind of a low light picture, but it just not the best front facing camera from what I've used. So that actually is kind of a better one, I would say, of the front-facing shots that I took. So this is kind of a low-light picture. Overall, camera quality in good lighting is fantastic. In low lighting, it's still pretty good, but it's not the best, but it's also not terrible either. So, I mean, really, there's no cell phone that takes amazing low-light pictures. But overall, I'd say so far, the cameras seem very good, especially in good lighting. They're phenomenal. In terms of battery life, so this has a 3300 milliamp hour battery, and so far battery life on this phone is surprisingly good. I was kind of expecting, with that 3300 milliamp hour battery, such a huge display, I was kind of expecting battery life to not necessarily be all that great. But I can say that, you know, just in the first 24 hours, it's a lot better than I expected. So you can see, you know, it's a little after midnight here, 53%. Now, I've been using this phone kind of off and on today, but in terms of, let's go into the settings just so you can see what I've done so far. I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I was expecting this to not even be an all-day battery, and so far I would say it pretty easily is an all-day battery. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking so far. So let's go into, so I don't have any battery savings on there, but let's go battery usage. Here we go. All right, so in terms of screen on time so far, 9%. So that's almost 3 full hours at 53%. So we're looking at 6 hours of screen on time, and that's really pretty good, actually. So that, to me, is surprising. I wasn't expecting that good a battery life, and so far it seems pretty good. Now, this is only 24 hours, so that can change, but at the moment, I would say that's pretty good. Another thing I wanted to mention here in the apps is I told you earlier that you can move apps over to the SD card. This is also going to be included in my tips and tricks video, so maybe I'm stealing the thunder from that one. But up here in storage, you go into apps, you go into the individual app, and then you go into storage, and here it is. You can change it to your SD card. So if you want to move apps over into your SD card, even though you technically can't really use it as internal storage, it doesn't give you that option when you put it in. It does have the option there in the app settings. So that's kind of a first-hand look at the LG G5. So far, would I say it's a definite buy? Well, you can get it for $650, and with that, you get a Google Home. Obviously, some other carriers are doing some other options as well. Like with Verizon, you can get that TV, which you have to wait for, but you get it. And so $650, it's a tough call. Right now, I would say I like the phone. Don't know that I love it. So we'll see. Let's talk about that more in the comment section. Tell me what you think about the phone. If you own it, tell me what you think about it. I want to know. Tell me what I'm missing here. Tell me if I'm wrong. I like it. I don't love it. That's my thoughts so far. 24 hours with the LG G6. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.